Fighters. The most plentiful type of aircraft in War Thunder. With my squad mate here, we'll be telling you tips and tricks on how to get the most out of your fighters. We'll be demonstrating with the arcade mode flight physics, but these can be applied to any game mode. First, let's get familiarized with each country. American fighters are characterized as heavily armed, heavily armored energy fighters. They excel in the use of boom and zoom tactics, as most of their planes lack maneuverability, but excel in firepower, being mostly armed with 6 50 caliber machine guns with high ammunition capacity.
German fighters are wonderful aircraft for boom and zoom tactics, due to their generally good climb rate and excellent energy retention. Nearly all German fighters are separated in two categories, those being the Bf-19 and the FW-190. Both have which many variants able to fly. German heavy fighters can take a modest amount of punishment, like some of the single-engine brethren excel in head-on engagements due to their overwhelming armament.
Fighters of the Soviet Union usually have guns with a high rate of fire and quite low ammunition capacity. Some come equipped with a small number of large caliber cannons. Soviet planes are often seen as all-rounder planes, good at everything, but great at nothing.
There are many different styles of fighters in the British tree, from turn fighters such as Spitfires and Hurricanes, to energy fighters such as the Typhoon and Tempest. Up until Tier 3, most of the British fighters lack armament and make do to 7.7mm Browning machine guns. Once Tier 3 is reached, however, every British fighter will have at least 2 20mm cannons. Britain's heavy fighter received 4 20mm spin-out cannons early on, giving you considerable firepower in low-tier games. These heavy fighters are fast, durable, and also maneuverable when comparing to other heavy fighters.
Japanese aircraft are often regarded as the most agile of the aircraft in War Thunder. Japanese aircraft such as the Ki-43 and A6M0s possess the quickest turn time of the fighters in the game, often allowing Japanese fighters to win turn fight engagements. This trait is found to a certain extent in all Japanese aircraft. This does, however, come at a price, as Japanese aircraft are very fragile and lack self-sealing fuel tanks, meaning that if set on fire, the blaze is likely not to dim. The Japanese aircraft tree favors dogfighting, especially turn fighting. However, they are poor energy fighters due to the limitations of Japanese engines. All in all, Japanese fighters are often the most agile and quite well armed. This is balanced by being fragile and having low armor. So what do all these terms mean? We'll now get onto that. First, we'll go over basic offensive tactics. Air Combat Maneuvering, or ACM, is the 3D art of maneuvering an aircraft in order to attain a position from which an attack on another aircraft can be made. When attacking, marked with the red vector, you want to always come in at an angle no matter your orientation from your target, giving your target a hard time trying to get their sights on you.
When your target turns, do not try to follow their turn exactly. A more advantageous thing to do would be cutting the angle of their turn to give you an opportunity to fire. You want to try and get your target to meet your shots. Make sure you properly lead your target as well.
When two pilots spot each other, they zoom to close the gap as they hold the trigger, and usually this is what entails. No one truly benefits.
Instead, when attacking a target head-on, fire short bursts in the target, calculating where to aim, and then pull off a dodge, whether it be at a roll or a simple maneuver to the side. Altitude can also be used in your advantage.
The best time to do a head-on is never. Only pull this move if your target forces you into it, or if you have disproportionately better firepower. Turn fighting is when you and your opponent turn to try and get into an advantageous angle, whether it be cutting into a turn or getting onto the tail. As we can see, the Zero possesses a much better turn time and is now on the Focke-Wulf's tail. The Focke-Wulf is unable to escape the chase. The use of flaps assists in turn time, allowing for tighter turns at low air speeds. However, in non-arcade matches, do not use flaps at speeds too far above 200 miles per hour, or you will rip them off.
Here's an example of actual combat. Turn fighting is also known as turning and burning, due to airspeed being lost or quickly turn. Turning sharply can create a lot of G-force, resulting in near blackout and obscured vision. One way to combat this is using your HUD's radar when you cannot see clearly to keep track of the enemy's location.
Heavy fighters are upscaled fighters designed to carry heavier weapons and operate at longer ranges. To achieve this, most are powered by twin engines. Heavy fighters cannot generally outmaneuver single-engine fighters. Here, two heavy fighters, a P-38 Lightning and the Bf-110, face off. We can see, like with single-engine fighters, performance can vary. The P-38 has an agility advantage over the Bf-110. However, it would probably not do very well against a single-engine fighter.
Use heavy fighters generally heavier weaponry to inflict massive damage, but do not engage in turn fights. Heavy fighters are good for destroying cumbersome bombers as well as other heavy fighters. Some fighters can carry explosive ordnance, whether it be bombs, rockets, or both. Some even designated as fighter bomber. For bombs, it's simple. Go into a dive and have your bomb reticle appear, and then drop away. For moving target at a distance, you want to drop in front of where the target's moving. However, this one is stationary.
Rockets are a bit trickier. Rockets are very inaccurate, so to make up for this, it's better to get close. Even so, you still want to account for the fact that rockets travel slower than bullets and drop over distances, so lead your target correctly. Do not be afraid to fire rockets during a head-on as well, as you may score a lucky hit. A good idea is to also fire multiple rockets at once to make up for their inaccuracy.
Boom and zoom is all about retaining energy. When you have higher altitude, you have higher energy. Using the altitude, dive to pick up speed and fire upon your target. After making your pass, use the energy gained to climb back up to higher altitude and continue to quickly pass your target. This will allow you to attack your target without being attacked back.
Bombers are usually covered with multiple defensive turrets, making it dangerous to get too close. Attack a bomber at an angle where their turrets have a hard time shooting at you. Knowing what kind of bomber you're up against helps as well. When attacking, attack for a short time, then break off and come back for another pass.
Sitting behind a bomber can be suicidal, as the tail gunner will have a pretty good view of you. Aim for spots in the bomber such as the cockpit or the engines. Without them, the bomber won't be getting far.
Those are just a few offensive tactics, and there's no single right way to do things. Experiment and find out what playstyle suits you. Next, we'll be moving on to defensive maneuvers.
Having a good offense isn't going to save you from getting shot down. Defense is just as important. Maneuvering correctly can get a plane off you, at least delay them enough to get you help.
The first maneuver is the Immelman turn. Pull up until upside down, then uninvert your plane. This trades speed for altitude, which can be recovered if desired, as well as quickly reversing direction. The inverse of this is called the split S and trades altitude for speed. This maneuver is mostly used to disengage from combat.
Next maneuver is a loop, even simpler than Immelman. Hold back on the stick into a vertical circular maneuver to level again. However, this maneuver provides no real defense unless your pursuer does not follow you into your maneuver. Surprisingly enough, another good way to avoid an enemy attack is to fly toward the attack at that angle.
Altitude can also give you an advantage in defensive maneuvers. Aside from being able to hide in or above clouds at higher altitudes, steeply diving will allow you to pick up a lot of speed in a short time.
When pursued at low levels, try to fly as close to the ground as possible. This gives your pursuer a harder time trying to shoot you, as they not only have to control their plane in a manner to give them a good fire angle, but also that the angle doesn't crash them into the ground. Use obstacles such as trees and other environmental objects to your advantage. If your pursuers try to copy you in your maneuvers but cannot successfully do so, you'll either crash or have to adjust their path. Do not fly in a straight line. This gives your pursuer a straight shot. Sway in different directions, but do not make a pattern, as your pursuer may figure it out.
Another thing you can try when being pursued is to roll while pulling up on the elevator at the same time. This is especially helpful when the plane's roll rate is fast. Climbing up in altitude can help lose a pursuer. This is only useful if you have a complete advantage in climbing ability though, otherwise things won't end well.
When a player becomes fixated on a target, they try to get them as fast as possible, resulting in excess speed and passing the target and the sights of the intended target.
Instead, what you should do is bleed off the extra airspeed by pulling up, then rotate back down to make another shot at the target. This can be repeated over and over again, and it's almost like consecutive mini boom and zooms. The use of flaps can also slow you down, as the extended surface of the wing creates more drag.
Scissors is a weaving motion done when an enemy tries to get on your tail. Weave in and out with your opponent, who will likely try to do the same in order to get an angle on you. This motion gives your pursuer an awkward angle that makes it difficult to attack you. By slowing down, you can cause your pursuer to pass you, resulting in the hunter becoming the hunted. This can also be applied in vertical, both in climb and dive. In this scenario, it is a climb and is identical to a spiral climb.
Flying with a wingman or wingmen can be very advantageous for all of you. In this case, the enemy goes after the player in the back of a two-man formation, which is a good choice as the attacker so that they not end up in the middle of the formation. The lead breaks off and circles back to support his wingman, who leads the pursuer on a wild chase.
Not every scenario will be this simple though, and the key in working in groups is communication. If flying alone and need help, fly towards your teammates. Flying near friendly ships or home base will help you as well, as friendly AA will try to shoot the enemy planes.
If you've seen War Thunder's Victory is Ours trailer, you may remember this scene. We've recreated it in-game, though with different planes. This maneuver is hard to pull off simply because the pursuer would have an easier time aiming in-game than in real life.
In order to do it successfully, you, as a target, have to have a climb advantage over your pursuer. When your pursuer loses too much speed and flops over, use your rudder to turn your plane over. As the enemy struggles to regain control and speed, you now have the upper hand.
Some other tips include this simple one. The default controls for the pitch axis, your elevator, are set to the page up and page down keys, which are on the other side of the keyboard. Based off the fact that no one using mouse aim should just turn using the mouse, it'd be better to put these controls in a more convenient spot. Personally, I use shift and control.
More tips include taking a look at your plane's stat cards. These give you a general idea about your plane's performance, but can be a bit misleading sometimes, and it's best to test fly your planes yourself.
Knowing what kind of ammo to select for what job can help you achieve your objectives better. War Thunder has an encyclopedia section with more information on this, as well as other things, including some of the maneuvers shown earlier.
Furthermore, researching certain modules, such as the Tier 3 and 4 flight performance modules, can give you a real boost when it comes to speed, climb rate, and turn time.
So that's all for now. We hope this video was informative to you. The tactic above all, however, is to learn your plane, how it handles, and what it can do. Next time, we'll be showing you tactics to use with bombers and other ground attacker vehicles. Until then, signing off.